Yes, thanks, Nick. Good afternoon, everybody. It is a beautiful afternoon in Bucharest, but we had snow overnight, and such are the resources of Steaua, the army club here, who are playing in the all-red strip and defending the goal to the right in the first half. Such are their resources that they got army helicopters out to flutter over the surface to dry the playing area, which is in excellent conditions now. Here's Belodedici, the sweeper for Steaua, European champions, you'll remember, 2 years ago. And a real test as Piţurcă jumps on the edge of the area. A real test for the side managed by the Rangers' number 8, Graham Souness. More on the Ali McCoy story in a moment. As you say, it is a major surprise. But let's concentrate first of all on the game's first free kick. Hagi and Stoica, the two players over the ball. Hagi with a gifted left foot, and Graham Roberts just gets to it. It'll drop here for Iovan, one of 8 survivors from the side which won that European Cup in Seville against Barcelona in 1986. The stadium packed to its 30,000 capacity. Hagi, who's the real ace in the Steaua pack. They call him the Romanian Maradona. It passed over Bumbescu at the far post. Back from Ungureanu. Desperate moments these for Rangers. Iovan. Munro trying to get there. Piţurcă. Stabbed it in. So inside 2 minutes. Joy for the Romanian crowd. And Rangers in all sorts of trouble. They never got it away. Richard got the last player to touch it before Piţurcă zoomed in. And Dennis Law to bring you in for the first time, and at a terrible time for Rangers.
Absolutely disastrous start. A terrible clearance originally. Of course, they're coming back, and then Richard Goff, who, as you said, had the last touch when it eventually came across, didn't get cleared, and of course there was Piţurcă to knock the ball into the net. But a disastrous start for Rangers, who, as Andy Gray say, have taken a tremendous gamble in playing Ali McCoy, who I all thought wasn't a full cartridge operation. It's only last Tuesday, 8 days, and played in such an important match.
It was such a surprise that McCoy only joined the flight at the very last moment to Romania on Monday and didn't bring his boots with him. So they were searching around for a pair that fitted, and here is Ali McCoy now. And Davy Cooper looking to strike back straight away. So many tactical games were being played by the two managers, even down to the numbering of the shirts. You'll notice Richard Goff wearing number 2, playing in the centre of defence. Jimmy Nicholl, number 7 at right back. All designed maybe to throw Steaua off their guard early on, but it's Rangers who've been caught. The very last thing that they needed. It was always going to be a difficult game against the side of proven pedigree. And now the likes of Nicholl there will have to help the young players like Scott Nisbet, who can't keep the ball in play. And Souness and Wilkins, anchoring midfield, will try to claw the situation back. Here's Stuart Munro. The tactical battle that Rangers were really setting out for their plan was to operate with 5 in midfield and support McCoist, rather literally the Lone Ranger in this formation, with the runs of Ian Durant. Stoica for Steaua. Hagi, who has the freedom to move across the width of the pitch, and Lăcătuş showing speed there. And although Woods tried to prevent the ball crossing the line, it's another corner for a rampant Steaua. Hagi to take it. Woods just gets to it, just. Davy Cooper operating on the left of that five-man midfield I was talking about. Great responsibility on his shoulders to try and hold the ball up and give Rangers a way out. Steaua waiting for the second half of the Romanian season to start. It begins next weekend. They've been warming up with friendlies in Italy, and they played a cup tie here against the lower division club on Saturday. So they've come fresh in many ways, and that freshness has shown with the early goal. Well, Bumbescu took a knock there from McCoist. Walter Smith, Graham Souness's assistant, on his feet in the Rangers dugout. No stoppage in play from referee Luigi Agnolin, a vastly experienced official in European competition from Italy. Bumbescu is still down, and now treatment can be administered. Dennis, you have had a cartilage operation. Are you staggered that Ali McCoist is out there?
Absolutely. I had one many years ago, and it took me, it was an average of something like 6 weeks, and in doing so, if you played in that time, then it was a good recovery. And as, of course, as time went on, they got a little bit better, but the fact that after 8 days is really astounding, and obviously it must be a world record. But the problem is, of course, in playing in such an important game as this, and the way that Rangers are going to be playing today, we knew that it was going to be a difficult game before, because of the position regarding injuries and players not available. But when you pack your midfield with 5 players, you have got obviously to try and get a hold of that ball. If you start clearing it from a defensive position, then you have only McCoist up there, and invariably the ball comes straight back.
Well, Bumbescu, as you saw, recovered from the McCoist challenge. As Dennis says, the Rangers' resources depleted by injuries, of course, to Terry Butcher. John McGregor, an important defender in other European ties this season, is also missing. But they have 4 who would be first-choice players ineligible for this round of Europe, signed too late to qualify. And Chris Woods dealing with the Roberts back pass. One of those 4 not allowed to play in this game is Mark Walters, of course, signed from Aston Villa. And McCoist is down, and that will be a worrying sight in the context of what we've been telling you. Bumbescu looking for a spot of revenge. And this is alarming. Phil Belsma on to look at McCoist. Well, it was the damage from the tackle rather than any jarring, it seemed, of the injury. Ray Wilkins taking the free kick too quickly for the referee's liking. The task really for Rangers here to keep Steaua within reach for the second leg at Ibrox, where the atmosphere will be intimidating in Rangers' favour. The Wall still reluctant to retreat, and Lăcătuş, who's the number 7. Souness buries the play for Cooper. Durant. McCoist, it came off Bumbescu. And didn't quite come down for a shot from Sunes. Stoica. Actually missed the European Cup final through suspension. That was a cruel blow for him personally. And the captaincy then passed to the player receiving from the throw here, Iovan. He was the man who actually got his hands on the trophy in Seville. The trophy that Rangers are trying to win for the first time. And it's a real dream for them, given that their great rival Celtic, of course, did win in 1967. Rotariu. Ungureanu, the left-back. Majearu, who's a right-footed, left-sided midfield player. Still pressed back by Scott Nisbet and crossing with his stronger foot. Lăcătuş. Hagi. Now Ungureanu. Belodedici, the sweeper, joining in, and Iovan. They're a side that doesn't give the ball away easily. Steaua, and Roberts stretched into the clearance for a corner. Steaua, who build their football on short passing, quick, snappy triangles of players, and they've made meaningful progress again. Well, Stoica, the player fouled by McCoist. A piece of body checking, and Rangers so aware of the threat of Hagi, talking since they've been out here about the risk of conceding too many free kicks within what they regard as Hagi's territory. And here he goes. Well, Woods kept it out. And he unveiled his quality then, Gheorghe Hagi. And it could easily have been 2-0. Hagi, Rangers in this retreating position again. Wilkins. Now where is the way out? Well, it's via the goalkeeper, and I don't think you'll find the Rangers back line pushing up too much and trying to play offside right up on the halfway line, because they're conscious of the speed of Lăcătuş in getting behind them. But that's a neat ball from Sunes for Ian Durant, who finds himself facing the goal and drawing the sweeper across. Belodedici, but a free kick is given outside. Dennis Law.
That was definitely, if that was a foul which the referee is obviously giving, then it must have been something like 2 yards inside, and therefore a penalty. I was surprised that the referee gave a decision in the first place. We can see it now. Just inside the box, it tends, and then of course he fell 3 or 4 yards in there. But if he's given it, it should have been a pen.
So Davy Cooper and Ray Wilkins, and Cooper bends it, but not quite enough. But an effort at goal, and Rangers need to build their self-belief again. Having suffered really through a very awkward opening 15 minutes. They're a goal down, if you've just joined us, scored after 2 minutes by Piţurcă. Cooper. And that was a foul by Lăcătuş. And he gets the yellow card, and Rangers won't be surprised at that, because he is a player known for frightening defenders, shall we say, not just with his skill. He's prepared to leave his foot in, which is what he did then. And referee Agnolin, Dennis, that was good from the Rangers' viewpoint to see an official aware maybe of the reputation of the man as well as of the foul.
Well, you see so many referees abroad, of course, and they really do become homers, but that was a very, very good decision by the Italian referee, because Lăcătuş did go over the ball there to Cooper, and rightly was booked.
In his past, Marius Lăcătuş, he saw off Goicoechea in a Romania-Spain international. Goicoechea, nicknamed the Butcher of Bilbao. So McCoy's the furthest forward again. Support quickly provided by Wilkins. Nisbet, who's a tall all-purpose player, playing on the right of midfield. Useful to try and hit with the deep cross. The time in Romania, 2 hours in advance of Greenwich Mean Time, just after 3:15 in the afternoon here. Wilkins. Souness. Piţurcă. Lăcătuş giving up the race with Munro, and the muscle has gone, it seems. He looks straight to the bench, and Lăcătuş, feared by Rangers, partly for his tackling, as we've said, but of course mostly for his thrust down the right-hand side of the attack of Steaua, may well be limping out of this game. So a very eventful start in Bucharest. Not always the way in the first leg of these European ties, but Steaua know that they have to make their home advantage count against the Rangers, who've already seen off Dynamo Kiev, of course, and Górnik from Poland. Belodedici. Ungureanu made a great run, and it was matched by the save from England's #2 goalkeeper. There's no doubt that Bobby Robson and the England squad get the benefits of Chris Wood's facing fierce club competition like this, denied to him, of course, in England. And that was a terrific save from relatively close quarters from Ungureanu, the left-back. Majearu, Ungureanu again. Stoica letting it run for Belodedici. Now Iovan, Lăcătuş is back in the action, and he gets his head to it, or maybe it glanced away from that mop of hair. Belodedici involved earlier. But it was an awkward cross, Dennis.
Certainly was, and Lăcătuş just got his head to it. Should have probably made better. I don't think he's a great he's great on the deck, but not particularly good in the air. But in saying that, Woods really has kept Rangers, although they're 1 down, still in the game. Has 2 magnificent saves, one from Ungureanu and Hagi, and the Rangers could have been 3-0 down. They're a very good side, Steaua Bucuresti. The way that they knock it about is in particular, and when you think that Rangers have got 5 in midfield, and they themselves have only got 3. They are the ones that are knocking about. Rangers have got to get a hold of that ball in midfield.
Sometimes too many players breeds a little bit of complacency. You know there are bodies around, and maybe the organisation isn't quite as tight in terms of picking off people running as Ungureanu was allowed to run right into the heart of Rangers defending a moment or two ago. Here's Majearu. Piţurcă, the scorer. If you've just joined us, to remind you that Rangers called in Ali McCoist, really here almost as a cheerleader, we thought, to wear the number 9 shirt and be the front runner that they hope will menace Steaua. 37 club goals this season, an indication of his importance. And as for Steaua Bucuresti, they still retain the core of the side which won the European Cup 2 years ago. One player has changed, is the goalkeeper. We're looking at Stângaciu. More on that in a moment. Richard Goff is up for the free kick. Stângaciu wants to come and get it, and does so. He's taken over from Helmut Ducadam, who was the real hero of Seville, with those 4 penalty saves in the penalty shootout. Ducadam is rather a sad story, really. Had circulation problems around the upper arm. Not, he's the first to admit, helped by a little bit of overindulgence in his diets during the off-season. And in the end, it really has led to the end of his career. But he is still working, helping, coaching the goalkeepers with the club, and has been very much on view here in Bucharest, talking to the visiting media. Hagi looking for Lăcătuş. That was well picked off by Richard Goff. But a poor ball by Wilkins has put Rangers back in trouble again. Hagi, he gets it onto the left foot, they are in trouble. And it was almost a panicky clearance, but in the end a successful one by Scott Nisbet across his own area. And now the play on the far side. But Hagi is taunting and teasing. Munro got his head to it. Stoica.
Well, there's one thing as well, Mr. Tyler, of course, I'm glad that sometimes you get a bit mixed up with names. And when it comes to Ungureanu, I think sometimes maybe in the next part of the game, that if when he gets it and has a shot or whatever, I think I might say the number 3.
Just as well he didn't score a minute or 2 ago, Dennis. Iovan for Hagi. Rotariu. And here is Ungureanu, 30 years old, more than 50 caps for Romania. Graham Souness has described Steaua as an international side in their capacity to play. And really they do form the nucleus of the Romanian setup, particularly their back line. And Hagi, of course, in that almost halfway position between the front men and midfield. Very difficult to pin down. Durant trying to link up with McCoist. Souness first time for Cooper. Rangers, who have to live in Scotland in a pressure cooker atmosphere, really. The day in the life of Rangers Football Club, every day of the year, is open to media scrutiny. Such are the expectations of their vast army of supporters. There's maybe 700 or 800 of them found their way to Bucharest. Lăcătuş and Majearu. Hagi pulling out on this near side, but Majearu's attempts to find him way off target.
Well, if Rangers can keep hassling the Steaua Bucharest players to get rid of the ball and make passes like that, then they're in with a chance. But at the same time, of course, when they get it themselves, they've got to keep possession. They can't give it away like Wilkins has done on these 2 occasions.
Wilkins now. Chased back by Piţurcă, and here's Stoica. Piţurcă. Graham Roberts was pushed in the back. Roberts, Tottenham fans will be delighted to know, as we look at Bălan warming up on the far side for Steaua, Roberts really has been the nail that's held Rangers together this season. He's an absolute folk hero north of the border. That will be Stângaciu's. And just to remind you, always we have viewers switching on all the time through the afternoon, the latest position here in this European Cup quarter-final first leg in Bucharest. It's Steaua București 1, Rangers 0, Piţurcă scoring after 2 minutes. A little nudge by Stuart Munro on Lăcătuş, who's still looking cautiously down at the back of his left leg. Now what does Hagi have in his repertoire when the angle is wider? Always has taken the position in the middle of the goal. And now he can be alertly off his line to tidy up with the help of Ian Durant. Cooper glanced it on. Bumbescu. Rangers retreat again. Majearu. Steaua won't be too concerned about having to apply the patient approach. It's very much in their makeup. In the end, Rangers force an error by Majearu on the far side. As I was saying at the outset, they do have tremendous resources, this Steaua club. We were told this morning that they regard themselves as the 4th largest sports club in Europe, and they certainly have the pick of the best players in this country. When there is a weakness maybe opening up or an injury occurs, you find that a player from a rival first division team is quickly co-opted. Ungureanu, the left back, is a case in point, brought here from University Craiova relatively late in his career, but it's the other fullback, Iovan, on the ball now. Majearu. Stoica. It's another feature of the Steaua play is they do take their free kicks quickly, and Rotariu thumped it against Robert Lăcătuş. Was guilty then, thankfully for Rangers, of making the wrong decision. It was clearly on for him to strike the goal after Rotariu had hit the first shot, which was deflected so invitingly into the path of Lăcătuş. And he passed the ball and the responsibility. Majearu. Iovan goes outside him. Majearu uses him as a decoy. Stoica. Jimmy Nicol getting in quickly, recently recalled to the Rangers colours. And there's the lone furrow that McCoist has to plough. But he was moving freely. And maybe they aren't too worried that he hasn't kicked the ball in training, because he's not going to get many kicks here, Dennis.
I don't think so, particularly the way the Rangers is playing, but how quick Steaua Bucuresti make on the break, and really what a let-off for Rangers.
This is Hagi making inroads again. Still Hagi was there, and the second time now Majearu will feel he should have had a penalty, because as the ball came off the goalkeeper from Hagi's shot, Majearu was moving in to finish it off and seemed to be balked. Was it Richard Gough? I think it might have been. And there was no way Gough was letting Majearu reach it.
I think really it was one of those, but again a tremendous save from Woods. But as was it Piţurcă who got tripped there? And really it was one of those that the ball coming off the keeper, and the reaction was so quick that really in a way you could sort of 6.5 dozen. So for Rangers, obviously a very good decision by the referee.
Bumbescu. Here's Roberts. And one Englishman making another. Dive again and scuttle across. But Chris Woods, at the moment, keeping Rangers in this tie. 3 saves. And those after being beaten with the first real strike at him from Piţurcă from very close range. Well, it's a stage for Woods, and he's performing on it. Dennis, you can see the way Steaua play, how keen they were to get this pitch dried out.
Well, of course, we watched them in training yesterday, and they certainly were very, very impressive, the way they knocked it out, and have continued that today. It's a very, very difficult game for Rangers. And as we said, Woods has made 3 outstanding saves already. And plus the fact that Steaua Bucuresti have missed a couple of very easy chances. And we saw Lăcătuş a few moments ago, instead of passing, he should have had the shot.
Iovan. Here is Lăcătuş. Held up for a moment by Ray Wilkins. Iovan. Piţurcă was looking for a bit of fancy embroidery then on the edge of the area. And that might suit Rangers if they over-elaborate in those circumstances.
That will definitely suit Rangers if they start doing things like that. Rangers are, you know, on the pitch there. They're 1-0 down. They could have been 3 or 4, could have possibly been 5 down. They're not. They're only that 1 goal down. They'll give them a little bit of confidence. And as soon as, and Wilkins in particular, the 2 most experienced players in the Rangers side, could just get their act together a little bit and help the young players and just keep a hold of the ball.
Ray Wilkins here playing his first European tie for Rangers. And McCoist, for a second, you just wonder whether McCoist in full sharpness then, the way he's been tucking the goals away this season. There was no more than a smell of goal really, but that's been enough for Ali McCoist this season on so many occasions. And now Souness gets himself into trouble. Ungureanu. Here's Majearu. In for Piţurcă, and Gough, who had some 20 games with Tottenham in the centre of their defence with Graham Roberts, before Roberts was the first of the pair to move north. McCoist. Cooper. Buying some time here for beleaguered teammates at the back. But Davy Cooper, always an individualist, overdoing his act then. Nicol. McCoist, who has been able at times to come off his marker, and Ray Wilkins is the furthest forward for Rangers. with a highly optimistic appeal for handball, as Belodedici took it on the chest. Well, Hagi screening it and trying to torment Nicol there. He got his free kick. Ungureanu. Belodedici, who was runner-up in the Romanian Footballer of the Year poll, to Hagi. And here is Hagi, again allowed to turn, close to goal. The slip was by Sunes. But Steaua could make nothing of it. Graham Souness has been hampered this season by a recurring calf strain. But at 34, you wonder quite how much first-team football for Rangers he's got in him. And it's ironic, really, for those of you who've watched Souness and Wilkins battle it out for Liverpool against Manchester United, Scotland against England, even for Sampdoria against Milan, that they should finally find themselves side by side. I should think Ray Wilkins is quite relieved after one or two of the Souness challenges on him down the years.
Slight little tackles, you know.
Well, Lăcătuş is going to give way to the injury. And Valint will come on. Another of the players who did play in Seville, coming up for 2 years ago. Again, referee Agnolin being very firm at free kicks about the distance the wall should go back. Stângaciu will be aware that Goff and Nisbet are waiting on the right of his goal. Nisbet jumping, and jumping so awkwardly that he's been penalised. Scott Nisbet may be a new name to many of you. He's 20 years old, captain the Scotland youth team as a centre-half, and has played in his short time with Rangers in virtually every position. Cooper. Well, they knew about McCoy before he came. They didn't expect to see him on the field, and they're learning that he can be very competitive, the Steaua defenders. Here's Ungureanu. Majearu. And Nisbet and Ungureanu with a little flare up off the ball. And there's no doubt that Nisbet got a blow in the face of some description. Ungureanu gets a yellow card, so too does Nisbet. The ball had been played away, and the two main combatants there stayed with each other. But it was Nisbet who retaliated, hence the free kick to Rangers for the first offence by Ungureanu.
I always feel if you're going to get booked, and booked for something that maybe you shouldn't say it, but carry the player off the park or whatever, but just a sort of a little bit of a slap there was a bit of a daft booking.
Durant. Souness. Nicol up in support. And Rangers massing to his left. The cross is aimed towards Durant, and had he got some sort of touch to it, he would have embarrassed Stângaciu, who in the end got his judgment right by claiming the cross. But it was something of a gamble that came off for the goalkeeper. And Rangers have conceded another free kick in midfield. where the battle is really being waged. That will be an indication maybe of Rangers' improvement as the half has developed, having conceded that goal after 2 minutes to Piţurcă. Rotariu and Balint, the substitute. Gavril Pele Balint, we're assured that he was actually christened that, if christened is the right term in an Eastern European country. This is one of his given names anyway. Born to be a footballer, you would say.
Well, it's a good stage for Rangers. In the last 5 minutes in particular, they have, for the first time, probably come into the game, and Souness and Wilkins. And Souness' little chip to McCoy about 5 minutes ago. It was one of those situations. It looked very slippy in the penalty area, but I feel that had he been 100% fit, as you said, man, I think he would have taken it. But that was definitely Rangers' best chance.
Belodedici having to turn and needing a covering player behind the sweeper, who was the number 11, Rotariu. The current fashion in England for short hair hasn't reached Romania. Stoica. Here's Majearu. Iovan. The fullback with a sense of adventure. Stoica. Rangers getting their players around the ball. Hagi. They've certainly got to get close to him. But no one wanting to really commit themselves, and Rotariu looking to quicken the tempo with the 1-2 with Piţurcă, and Durant leading the charge out. Wilkins didn't really see Nisbet quick enough, and the ball rather got stuck under Ray Wilkins' foot in any case. So that was the breakout that they were looking for, Rangers. Hagi, dispossessed by Wilkins. A little point of honour there to the Rangers man. And the foul by Iovan. Crowd of 30,000, as I was saying earlier. They paid between £2.50, the equivalent, and £4.50 for the privilege of watching this European Cup quarter-final first leg. When the minimum wage in Romania is £3,000 a year, it represents a reasonable outlay. But I don't think, Dennis, the soldiers have had to pay to get in.
Well, I think that's all you ever see over here. All the soldiers, even in the hotel, I'm sure the waiters were soldiers as well. But it's been a good last 10 minutes for Rangers, and I feel that if they can go in this half, only that one goal down, I think they'll be more than pleased.
Players arriving at the stadium with one or two little comments about unsettling experiences in the team hotel, particularly when the lift kept getting stuck. Happily, everybody was able to report here in good time. Just a couple of minutes of the first half remaining, and Rangers will feel in some ways that they've got out of jail if they can hold it at 1-0 and maybe even strike back here with Souness. Well, it was passing wide, and Stângaciu looked grateful for the activity. The player manager looking to haul his team back into the match. Hagi, Roberts took him out, and that's going to mean another yellow card. Graham Roberts was in a situation then where he felt it was drastic action. We're looking again at Souness' shot, but the most meaningful moment was at the other end. Now, Hagi was halted then, cynically, but he has the right of reply from the free kick. Although He's still down there, just flexing the ankle. The Rangers wall is moved back. And it's Rotariu who took it in the end, and Hagi is limping away and off the pitch. Well, Rangers weren't really troubled by Rotariu's effort. A pale imitation of Hagi. And they've lost a goal, but Steaua have lost one player, Lăcătuş. And the concern now off the field is whether Hagi will resume, and on the field from a very annoyed Bumbescu about the treatment being dished out to him. Well, no one expected Rangers to come here and lie down. Here's Durant. He's got Nisbet to his right. Souness in closer attendance. Through the middle, the willing McCoist. You just have to remind yourself, Dennis, almost look down at your notes to tell you that McCoist is out there. It's such a surprise.
It certainly is, and I think just the fear of his name alone is one of the reasons why Souness as well put him up front.
I can tell you that Miodrag, the Steaua coach, some 35 minutes before the kickoff, did not know that McCoist was going to play. He was playing guessing games. In fact, told the Scottish television commentator Jock Brown and myself that this was the team Rangers would play. He was so confident. Well, McCoist wasn't in his team, so he was certainly caught unawares. The half-time whistle goes. A first half that started disastrously for Rangers, who haven't won many friends here with their tackling. A number of yellow cards for the second half starts of Piţurcă's goal, and Piţurcă with 19 league goals in 17 games, as Andy Gray was saying, very much the danger man in terms of poaching around goal. Hagi, the one who's trying to orchestrate the play, but just how fit he is now, we'll have to wait and see. It takes it out of you when Graham Roberts runs into you, I'm sure. But Steaua have made that one substitution already in the game. The number 17, Balint, on for Lăcătuş. So they want to give Hagi a good chance. It is Ungureanu. Brought down by Wilkins. He's fit enough, Hagi, to place the ball for the free kick. You can almost see the glint in his eyes, even from this distance. That's aimed, but over Piţurcă. Dennis Law, there are so many expectations on Glasgow Rangers, partly because of the amount of money that Graham Souness has spent. Really, people expect instant success, which doesn't come in football, even if you do have the resources that Rangers have.
Certainly, and of course Graham really wants desperately to get through into the semi-final, because apart from injuries, of course, to the likes of Butcher, he's also got Walters, Brown and Bathroom to pick into the side. And it's very difficult, you know, when you're playing week in, week out, and all of a sudden you come up to your European Cup tie and you've got to leave something like 6 players out. So it's a different game altogether. A lot is expected of Rangers, and this is a desperate game for them, that they want to get through to the semi-final to get some of that money back. And obviously he's going to spend more in the summer, I'm sure.
Yes, with the name of Ian Rush floated around the newspapers north and south of the border at the weekend. One thing you can say about that is that Rangers could certainly afford Rush. Wilkins came for £250,000, one of the cheaper purchases from Paris Saint-Germain, where he had just a brief stay at the start of the season. And always the diplomat, Ray Wilkins, except on one rather notorious occasion in the last World Cup. which I'm sure he wants to forget about. Goff selling Nicol short then. Majearu got in. And Nicol has to scurry back to try and retrieve the situation which was forced upon him by Richard Goff. Ungureanu. Majearu. Conceding a second goal here for Rangers would make recovery at Ibrox certainly awkward. Even allowing for the red-hot atmosphere there will certainly be there. That game's already a sellout. Rotariu. Majearu just got to the ball first, and Nisbet made a definite attempt to play the ball, but was beaten by the quicker man. Four minutes gone in the second half. A free kick to Steaua. Belodedici, the sweeper, has come forward. It's driven by Hagi, but right comfortably into the midriff of Chris Woods. And those waiting in the middle were, on this occasion, a decoy. Balint. And Balint, the number 17, incidentally stayed out during the half-time interval and kept warm. He'd only just come on, of course, minutes before half-time. And he didn't hear the instructions from the coach during the break. All concerned about keeping the blood flowing. Well, in any circumstances, away goals are priceless in Europe. And that would certainly be the case if Rangers could strike here with Davy Cooper. Iovan got in the way. Rotariu. Durant won it back. A good first touch from Souness. Cooper. Iovan. Piţurcă forward through the middle. But they like to keep their passes short when they can. But they've got to play their way through a congested midfield, and it has to go long in the end towards Piţurcă, and that was a little victory there for Rangers. Picked off by Jimmy Nicol. You can see the scars on the pitch now. Of just how wet it has become over the last couple of days. The Rangers, incidentally, were hoping it would rain through the match. But they haven't had their wish. The only deluge has really come from the way Steaua started the game.
The Rangers will be very happy indeed if Steaua Bucuresti keep knocking about in midfield, those short balls, and gives them time to regroup and get behind the ball. They'll be quite happy with that. What they don't want is the short passes, then the quick one through, either to either flank or through the middle. That's when they are in danger. But at the moment, Rangers have come out in the second half and playing quite confidently.
Stoica. Maybe more will come from him. Hagi, almost a spectator at the moment, limping away on the far side. The ball with Balint, and it was Stoica there trying to lay it off for Piţurcă and not connecting. And if you've just joined us for the second half, 7 minutes of it has elapsed, and it's still Steaua 1, Rangers 0. A goal way back in the 3rd minute from Victor Piţurcă. Balint. Shown the inside route by Stuart Munro, but Balint still running. And Roberts was a little surprised that a colleague wasn't there to pick up the loose ball, and he's got drawn out. Piţurcă he doesn't exactly look Mark Hateley in the air. Hagi. Aiming for Piţurcă again. His first touch, though, on the ground is very good. And he took the pace out of the cross brilliantly, and then wasted it with the back heel. Bumbescu has got Bălan to his right. The support for the Army club absolutely packed into this tight little stadium. It's a real football ground, not burdened with an athletics track. Everybody's on top of the play. And the crowd trying to lift Steaua. They might be starting to sense, Dennis, that Steaua have missed an opportunity, really, to settle this tie in the first 45 minutes.
Well, I was just thinking earlier on how quiet the crowd had gone. We haven't chatted them for the last 50 minutes of the first half, and very quiet in this opening minutes of the second. And just for the last 2 minutes, then they can sense that. The problem with Rangers, of course, now they are defending well, but unfortunately, when they knock the ball out, with McCoy's being the only guy up there, it invariably comes back. They've got to try and push people and help McCoy in the middle. Up front.
Well, the player with the greatest responsibility for that is Ian Durant, who was fouled then. And the Rangers players indicating to referee Luigi Agnolin he should take a firm grip on any gesture of dissent. The ball was thrown away angrily by Belodedici. But in the overall scenario of this quarter-final, if Rangers can hold it to 1-0, they would regard that as a triumph. They lost 1-0 in Kiev against a quality side then, and won 2-0 at Ibrox. They beat Górnik 3-1 at home and held the Polish club 1-1 in the second leg, and Durant looking for an away goal here after a mistake by Ungureanu. His opposite number, Stuart Munro, having to be tidy in his defending. Iovan. Souness. Durant. Now he can go up and help McCoist. Nisbet. In fact, Durant's had to check back to stay onside and was yelling at Nisbet then, maybe because the ball didn't come early enough. But he works a little triangle here with Jimmy Nicol. Rangers must beware that Steaua are a counter-punching team, and it might suit the home side to lure Rangers forward, and then they can explode into space that isn't really available at the moment. Bălan. Iovan. Only Piţurcă through the centre. Hagi. Stoica. And now Belodedici. He took a deflection. Just at a time where Rangers were really beginning to look as comfortable as you can in these circumstances. They now face the test from this corner. Ungureanu. Rotariu, who's shown a willingness to shoot from distance, but the ball was not played quite right for the shot on that occasion, and Rangers' attempts to win possession back incur the referee's displeasure. Belodedici, the tall sweeper, has gone forward again. But it's into the feet of Piţurcă. And now it's a Rangers free kick. And Graham Souness, of course, quite capable of conversing to the referee in Italian. Trevor Francis is one of the substitutes for Rangers in this game, was telling me before the kick-off that the last time they saw Agnolin was the Italian Cup final between Sampdoria and Milan. Small world football, Dennis.
Well, I must say as well, of course, they've had 3 players booked, but the referee has been very good to Rangers. you know, because in Europe you tend sometimes for them to be homers, but he's given Rangers a lot of things that you would normally not expect.
When you get through a round, the first thing you look for is to who you play in the next round. The second thing is who's going to referee the away leg. And here's Durant. Now, Rangers feel that Bumbescu's challenge was on a par with that of Graham Roberts on Hagi. And yes, the referee treats it the same way to bear out the point that Dennis Law was making. The word from the Romanian camp was that Bumbescu went into this match with 1 yellow card to his name. So if that is the case, he will miss the second leg. And he's an important marker at the back, particularly away from home. And now his indiscretion has given Rangers possibilities from the free kick. Davy Cooper, very adept at curling the ball, but he can't get it over the wall. Looked out by Majearu, but this time Steaua have got nobody forward. Situation that Rangers have been in so many times. And Roberts can ease it back, and they don't like it here. But back in Britain, if it keeps it at 1-0, it's good news. So important for the British game, particularly while the English clubs are banned, that the British flags are flying on the European competition trail. Rangers, the last of the British clubs involved, of course, and Steaua, the last of the Romanians. And that was neatly done, but the progress has been minimal. But now here's Hagi, and Iovan timing his burst beautifully. And the cross had gone behind. There's a lot of pointing going on. And the most important pointing from referee Agnolin is for a goal kick. So half an hour left, Dennis.
Well, certainly Rangers must be quite pleased with the way that this second half has gone. They themselves have got a bit better organised at the back and in the midfield. Plus the fact that Steaua Bucuresti are not playing as well as they did in the first half.
But there's a mistake by Monroe, and it wasn't costly. But how lucky he was. And here's Souness. Not quite the acceleration these days, but Stuart Munro underhit the back pass then. And fortunately, Chris Woods was able to redeem the situation.
Well, it always happens when you say something like that. We're just saying how well they played and something like that. But apart from that mistake, Rangers have played well in the second half. They have got better organised. And the crowd are beginning to realise that Rangers are at last really coming back into the game.
I think weighting the passing on this surface is a little bit more difficult than maybe the players thought. Rangers did have half an hour training here yesterday, but the more it's cutting up, the more firmness is needed. More time used up. Not pretty, but effective. And certainly well within the ethics of the two-legged affair. Hagi. But he's looking very much out of sorts at the moment, physically, because of the foul on him by Roberts. But also looking a little disenchanted with some of his teammates as well. He does have a reputation as a rather temperamental individual. Often the way with gifted players, Dennis?
Sure.
Present company accepted, of course.
But it's just the way that Souness and Wilkinson particularly, if you give them that little bit of room, which Steaua Bucuresti are doing at the moment, then they can control the game, and that's exactly what's happening.
Well, Bălan is being prepared for duty, it seems, for Steaua, but Rangers will have to look to the situation regarding Souness, who's down at the moment. Hagi wondering whether he's going to be replaced. There's quite a dialogue going on between Steaua number 10 and his bench. Of course, ultimately, Souness can take the decision about himself. But he's prepared to soldier on. And the free kick is given against a bemused Scott Nisbet for backing in when he picked the ball up thinking it was going to go his way. He's learning a few lessons in this match. Majearu. Iovan. Steaua still keeping Bălan in a right wing position, but not getting him into the match very much. Wilkins. Beaten to it by Majearu, and here's Stoica. Here is Bălan. And steaming across came Roberts, the one-man task force.
He is a great player to have on your side. And along with Richard Goff, in particular, the two central defenders in the last 50 minutes of the first half and in the second have been outstanding.
Both prepared to accept responsibility. Both natural leaders. Roberts, captain on the field, of course, because of the Butcher injury. And Goff, as Tottenham fans will remember, led them at Wembley last year. Now Wilkins and Piţurcă.
Well, if you see Ray Wilkins kick anybody. He once kicked a Scotsman in one of the England games, if I remember. In the tunnel, I think.
Well, Wilkins and Rangers look as though they're going to face Bălan on as a substitute very shortly. Whether it will take place at this free kick remains to be seen.
That is where they've definitely got to be very careful. We've seen how Hagi particularly could crack the ball, or two or three of them in that position. They've got to be careful they don't concede free kicks just outside the penalty area.
Hagi is not going off. The number 11 board indicating the replacement of Rotariu, and the referee is not allowing the substitution to take place yet. Now Bălan comes on. He was the player who deputised for Stoica in the European Cup final when Stoica was suspended. So Hagi is still there, and Rangers must still worry about him. And deflected and in. That's cruel. Very cruel indeed on Rangers. It flicked off the edge of the wall. And sped past Woods. Laid off by Hagi for Iovan. And Woods left helpless. So it's Jovan's goal. Just the suspicion as it sped into that pack of players that it might have hit Bumbescu, who was loitering there. But definitely the goal for Iovan.
Well, really, Martin, that was cruel because Rangers had been playing so well. We just felt it's any free kick outside the box, there always is danger, but when you get a deflection, well, that really is very unlucky.
And here's Souness. And Rangers dare not concede a third, but 2-0 I would have thought Steaua would have settled for at the outset. So a lot of honest toil and a bit of good fortune along the way has now been wiped out. And Hagi, in the end, was the decoy. It was just rolled to the tall right-back Iovan, and then that deflection off the wall. But here's Hagi. Sunes closed him down. Iovan wants to strike another one. He struck twice, but luck didn't.
Well, it was a good piece of professionalism, if you want to call that, in this country by Bumbescu. Prior to the free kick being taken, he must have ran something like 30 yards into the Rangers' wall. He really upset the wall. He broke it up. And of course, when the kick was knocked there, it came off the Rangers' player in that exact position that he had disturbed. The referee did have a little word with him, but it's one of those things that do happen.
Stoica, Iovan. Hagi letting Ungureanu do the work by running outside him, and that distracted Rangers. Monroe. Over the time that we've played, coming up to 70 minutes now, Dennis, you have to say that it's not an unfair reflection on the balance of the match, but it just came at a time where you thought fortune was favouring Rangers.
Well, we've seen so many games through the years that we've seen that situation so many times when a team has come back and they are playing, quite well, and all of a sudden something like that happens. We've seen it time and time again. Very sad is because they were particularly playing well. It's going to be very difficult last 20 minutes of this game. But if Rangers can still keep it at 2-0, you still feel they've got a chance at Ibrox. But they've got the tails up now, and it'll be very difficult to keep it at that scoreline.
And it's revived Steaua, it's revived their supporters. And Hagi has looked particularly encouraged again to be involved. McCoist was caught offside. It's been a game almost devoid of offsides through the nature of the tactical battle. Here's Bumbescu. The Rangers substitutes are up off the bench. The four outfield players at least, not the second goalkeeper, Nicky Walker. They are Abby Cohen, Jimmy Phillips, Derek Ferguson and Trevor Francis. Iovan. Bălan. Neatly laid back for Iovan, and Roberts has to take the steam out of it. Well, there's almost a military unison about the cheering as well. Bălan. And this is Majearu. The Army Club are on the march. Iovan, Stoica, Balint, Stoica. And Wilkins glad that the ball rolled back towards him. He was in no position to defend against it. Durant. Here's Sunes. There are players to his right, Nicolae and Nisbet. And McCoist is through the middle. Bumbescu has got across to mark him now. Here's Nisbet. Stoica. Majearu. Two to his left. Ungureanu, the left-back who loves to attack. Played against Dundee United last season in Europe for University Craiova. Was a loser on that occasion, but it's going better for his team since his transfer. His new team, should I say. Hagi, away from Durant, never got set.
Not a good shot at goal. You can see the arrogance in the Steaua side since they scored that second goal, and it happens in football. You know, when you're up, you tend to do things, because at one stage just prior to that they were down. They didn't look the side they had been in the first half, but they've come back. It's going to be very much an uphill battle for Rangers now. I honestly couldn't see them scoring anyway, and I can't see them scoring in the remaining minutes of the game. But the one thing that they cannot do is to concede a third.
Ungureanu. Steaua certainly favourites at the outset of this tie. We must be fair to Rangers in stressing that, because of their recent pedigree. Graham Souness still in a building stage in his attempts to replant Liverpool Football Club in Glasgow. Bălan. Here's Majearu. Bălan. Piţurcă. Roberts, who was a little slow to come out for once, got away with it as they tried to construct the 1-2 round him. But if he was slow, it's weariness produced by constant vigilance at the back, which is what they've needed. Iovan. Bălan. Iovan is onside, and Roberts in the right place again. Rangers want to take off Scott Nisbet. It's not a good time to make a substitution when you're defending at a corner. Can lead to a lack of concentration, and my word, Rangers need all their discipline here. The clearing header was from Richard Goff. Majearu, Hagi. Trying to work it continually onto his left foot, but there was some good defending by Durant, which allowed Souness to find McCoist, and Durant galloping up in support. McCoist couldn't release it quickly, but the reason is he was fouled, and that, as you can judge from the crowd reaction, is a contentious decision. Meanwhile, they're still trying to get Nisbet off and Derek Ferguson on, and the substitution will take place now. Derek Ferguson a little unlucky to be left out of the starting lineup. The reason really is because he's a similar player, although much younger version, of course, to Souness and Wilkins. And 3 would have been one too many, but the 3 are out there now. Now, if Rangers could get an away goal, the whole balance of this tie would change. And here's Cooper. Fouled by Hagi, giving him a taste of his own medicine by taking him on with the ball. And surely now Goff was already forward. Surely now he'll be joined by Graham Roberts. McCoist, Durant, Goff and Roberts, the four in the penalty area. And it's a vicious ball in, and that, for a goalkeeper who hasn't had much to do, was a very brave catch. It's led to some angry reaction from the Romanians for the Rangers' attempts to get there first. Well, there were two aspects to this. First of all, the handling by Stângaciu, who's had so little to do, and he hauled it in under pressure, shall we say.
Under pressure, yes, but of course you've got, if you're a forward in a situation like that, you've got to go in, and sometimes it looks far worse than it actually is. I don't think really anything happened to the goalkeeper.
In fact, more happened to Roberts, who's limping now. And referee Agnolin, whose handling of the match doesn't always please the partisans here. But there have been precious few moments you could quibble with. He's awarded Rangers another free kick. And Goff is there again, but it's over him. Ungureanu. Bumbescu, and now Stoica. Bălan. Push in the back by Wilkins. All in a day's work. Taken in good part by Hagi. Stoica. Belodedici. Making the extra man. Majearu. This is Ungureanu. Belodedici. And it breaks for Majearu again. Nicolae will get there first. Again, Agnolin shows his impartiality, having a word with Bumbescu, who was protesting. Dangerous when you've already had the yellow card, as Bumbescu has. Not only military personnel here, but I don't know whether you're picking it up. It sounds as though the military band has come as well. Trying to hit the right note for their team. Looking for the insurance of a third goal with 8.5 minutes on the clock. Ferguson. And now Nicolae. Off goes McCoist, and when we heard he was going to start the game, the next question was, how long do you intend to play him for? And he's still out there and seems determined, bubbly character that he is, to see it through. But hardly an opening to give Rangers an away goal. They've been pressed back for so much of this quarter-final first leg. Bălan. Hagi. As soon as trying to find a forward player, and McCoist this time was back on his heels, and you can hardly blame him. Most of his running has been done without encouragement of getting the ball. Piţurcă, it was a slippery turn. It was covered by Goff. So, Dennis, we're looking back on a goal that happened in the desperate early moments before Rangers had settled, and a deflected free kick.
Yes, and obviously a terrible start, and just when they were beginning to look not too bad at all, as though it would stay at 1-0, of course they had that really bad luck. They've got to be very careful. How long is it now? Something like 7 minutes to go. They've got to be careful, Martin, that they don't concede that third goal, because they feel that if they do, then really that is the time beyond them. But there are certainly some very, very tired legs out there, and a mistake is very easy to make.
Trevor Francis reckoned he might get a couple of minutes run at the end. He's actually limbering up now with 6 minutes left. Souness. As Dennis Law was saying earlier, 2-0. It's going to be hard, but not impossible. And that's really the prize now that they're playing for, Rangers, to keep it at 2-0. As Steaua launch another attack, which founders on Roberts. Durant breaks for Derek Ferguson. Wanted a player outside him, but there was no one there for Rangers. And Wilkins took a clever quick free kick, but in fact it was the substitution that pulled it back. And it's McCoist, I think, that they want to go off. But he's very reluctant to leave. So with 5 minutes left, Ali McCoist, and all praise to him for his bravery, for taking on that role as the Lone Ranger up front. But the fresh legs provided by Trevor Francis, who won a European Cup final, of course, for Nottingham Forest. The goal now for Rangers in the few moments that remain would be almost as timely. And he's still waiting for his first one for the Scottish club. Bălan. Nicol got back. Belodedici with the header. Then Stuart Munro. Bălan into the space that Munro vacated. And Cooper having to fill in then. And doing enough. Iovan. Well, Rangers will be quite happy if Steaua delay over the taking of the throw. Wilkins still chasing, putting pressure on in midfield. And should deserve some credit there for the ball being given away in the end. Derek Ferguson's no newcomer to European competition. He was involved in the UEFA Cup run last season that reached the third round. He scored a very good goal away from home in Portugal against Boa Vista. But it's Hagi. Can he unlock Rangers once more? Iovan. Steaua keeping the ball. Rangers trying to keep them at arm's length. Oh, and Cooper, not really the place to back your own skill on the ball, although Cooper has considerable skills. Wilkins. Well, you can see the weary look of battle on the face of Graham Roberts. They've been through a lot, have Rangers, Dennis.
Well, it's the only thing that you could do, really, and last 5 minutes, only a couple of minutes to go, that's exactly what you do. But just getting back to McCoy for just 2 seconds, that I thought he'd done extremely well. It's a very, very lonely job. I've sometimes been an ex-striker, played up front of my own in Europe, and it really is an awful, it's like having a nightmare, because you very rarely get a kick, and if you do, you've got to try and make the best of it. He had one chance in the first half, didn't quite take it.
Monroe. So through the middle now is Francis. Pressing Belodedici back. And winning the throw for Rangers. Which will have 2 possibilities, really. First of all, it's keeping Steaua away from Chris Woods' goal. But there's still time for one moment that would mean so much to Rangers. The right ball in here, 2-1, would be wonderful. Ferguson trying to squeeze a pass out to Monroe. Has it opened up for him? Wilkins trying to loop it in for Francis. Not really with enough conviction. And Wilkins had to repair the damage in the end, although the referee has given the free kick to Steaua. Hagi trying to accelerate with tired and bruised legs. Bălan. We're in injury time. And Jimmy Nicol had to pick that one off and did. Souness. Majearu. Bălan trying his luck on the left, and it was useful build-up involving Piţurcă. The Rangers were just in control. Dennis Law, given that it stays 2-0 now, can Rangers come through, do you think?
Yes, I feel that they've got the opportunity. At 3, no, but certainly with 2 they've got a chance, and considering what has gone on in the game, you feel that 2-0 has been not a bad result for them, because the goalkeeper Woods have had 3 magnificent saves. They could have, if they do lose this game, they could have lost it by possibly 6.
But in fact, they've lost it by the 2. The first one from Piţurcă in the 3rd minute.